I'm Romy, and I'm an Agile Delivery Lead at giffgaff. I wasn't going to do an intro, but I feel like I need to now. So a bit about me. I'm from Jersey originally, so just to be different, I obviously decided I had to do the complete opposite thing and come to London, and it was there that I kind of found the cool world of startups. Originally, I worked in the Gherkin, so that made my job title easy to explain, and that was my job title. I worked in the Gherkin back home, but now it's obviously went to Scrum Master and then Agile Delivery Lead, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So I'm going to tell you a bit of a story, and I think it's really cool, exciting, but I had to cut out loads of slides. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and it's likely that there are 5 slides on a separate deck for them. So I'll try and answer them at the end. Cool, so this story is called Crowdsourcing Finds Clarity, and like any good story, it's going to begin with a once upon a time. So this is the setting the scene, so I'm going to tell you a bit about giffgaff. So giffgaff, so this was founded 13 years ago, and essentially, it's a purpose-driven company. That's the key headline here. It's a telecoms company, and it had a reason behind. The reason behind its inception was to do good for its members, and also to bring that sense of community through everything it does. So its tagline is the mobile network run by you. And so that's where we begin the story, and then we do a massive time jump. And again, I look to find a high-performing team image, and this is the limits of my capability. So I went gold star, we get a gold star. We get a gold star for our DevOps capabilities about 13 years later. So in the last few years, what we've done is we've gone from 1 deployment a month to 16,000 deployments a year. And the reason I'm telling you that is essentially that our DevOps capability is an enabler. So that's the headline for you. That's all you need to know is we get a gold star for DevOps, really. But it means, and it enabled the rest of the story to continue. So, chapter 2. This is where we introduce my favorite character of the story, obviously, the OKR squad. As a member of the OKR squad, I'm obviously a bit biased here, but we'll leave that to the side for now. So, the OKR squad came about and walked into the room, and they're walking into the room to improve the objective setting process at giffgaff. So we look around and we look at last year's objective setting process, and essentially we're agile. So to save the day, obviously, a retro's needed. So what we do is we look at how the objective setting process was done in 2022, and we try and find areas for improvement. Obviously, giffgaff, it was amazing in general, but we did identify certain areas for improvement. So the main ones were the objectives kind of died quite quickly, they became obsolete. We're an agile, fast-moving company, so obviously we need an objective setting process that is also agile and flexible. And the other thing it lacked was that underlying process and infrastructure. So rather than learning from our mistakes a month later, we're learning from it just about a year later, because we didn't have that process in place. It wasn't adopted across the organization. Cool, so I'm not gonna lie, I did this a bit last minute, and it feels like I'm playing a game of shuffle with my slide decks. So let's see how it goes. Oh yeah, we're going on to the next chapter, which is smashing it. So this is where we meet another main character in this story, the leadership team. So this is when the leadership team walk up to the plate, and they announce the objective setting goals for 2023. They've got all the information from the OKR team, from the OKR squad. We said, start things a little sooner this year, we'll work on the process, we're going to call it OKRs, objectives and key results, and essentially we fix all your problems. Don't worry about it, guys. So they do. They walk up, they have some very, very ambitious goals, and they declare them to the townspeople of giffgaff. So how does that go? Well, it doesn't actually go as planned. The sentiment in the air is like overwhelm, just shock, not particularly calm waters and not particularly excited as they would have anticipated. So it didn't really go as planned. But the OKRs were like, okay, this is a challenge. We're up for a challenge, so what do we want to do now? So we've got a few options. We can, A, react. It's tempting. We've got all the emojis on Slack to do it. B, we can smile and wave. We can keep things going and hope for the best. Or C, we can pause and we can respond. So, anyone want to guess? Yeah, obviously. I'm bragging about the story, so yeah, we chose to respond. And this is where we go on to chapter 4. So the crowd also rises. Okay, so the first thing we did is we got more people involved. And we actually went from those six people who set the original objectives, and we decided to recruit even more people. That's got us to 42 people, which equated to just under 20% of the entire giffgaff population. So we're pretty proud of this collection of people. And we knew that collectively we could crowdsource a solution to the problem that we've identified. So this is like, I'm a bit of a nerd on collaboration tools, so I had to show you guys this. But basically this is what we did. We designed a workshop that took us through some certain steps, the objective being to come up with a response to leadership to their ask. So can we do these objectives? This is what we do to answer it. So we went through a series of steps. What we found is along the way, we also had lots of conversations that really clarified our understanding as a massive group of 42 people. And we found that our understanding got better and better throughout the workshop. That was like a pleasant surprise, to be honest. We didn't really think about that when we set it up. We were thinking more about the artifact and the outcome. So, pleasant surprise number one. Opportunity number one here as well was the lessons we had to go through, the agile lessons we had to teach in order to bring people along this journey. So the first thing we did to see if objectives were possible was we had to scope them out and size them. Sizing in Agile, I don't know what your opinions are, tends to be a bit mixed, so hopefully this is all right with you. But basically the first lesson we did is teach everyone that sizing is a relative thing. So we got everyone to baseline, not based on time, not based on developer hours, but based on complexity and effort and uncertainty. And from there we got people to baseline like one milestone, and then to relatively size the rest. So we had a ranking, we had a series of things that were relatively sized. So what do we do next? Well, we let everyone go for lunch. And offline, what we did is we mapped all of this out onto a set predefined kind of sizing that we had done secretly and beforehand. We had mapped, so we can map those sizes out to certain objectives, and we got this-ish number here. So these pinkish dots on the left, on everyone's left, yes. So we could calculate now that that was the objectives, and then we use this to teach lesson number 2, which was the concept that capacity was fixed. This was going to be an interesting one, but a really important Agile lesson along the way. So we then said, look, now this is, based on what you've said, these are the objectives, capacity that's needed to achieve these objectives. This is the reality of your capacity on a very high level, quarterly basis. What does that mean? Well, that means that basically, no, we can't do it. You're asking for 2/3 more, our capacity is fixed, and therefore we're going to have to rethink this. So that was lesson number 2. So along the way, what we've done essentially is we translated this sentiment, this instinct, into some really clear maths that we could then relay to leadership and respond to them with. It was a really interesting exercise, and again, the spark for me was the conversation. But yeah, I hope that's clear. I'm really bragging about my workshopping skills there, so hopefully you get the maths at the bottom there, right? One of the cool things we did as well is we got to scenario map out some things. So the capacity was fixed. And so some people were like, well, maybe we could just outsource all of it. Let's just get loads of, what are they called? Contractors. Let's get loads of contractors in. So we looked at that, and the reality of what we would need in order to do that was just made it really clear that that was a ludicrous solution. So another win there. Okay, so now I'm going to go on to chapter 5. I was looking for the clock.
You've got time.
Whereabouts am I?
You've got 10 minutes.
Oh my God, so good. This is my halfway point, and I was hoping for like 10 minutes. Good, cool, we're on track. Okay, so chapter 5, maths, management, and multi-biscuits walk into a meeting room. So this is the drum roll moment. Like, we've done all that work, we've translated all of that instinct, that what we could have done was react, but we didn't, we responded, and we've translated all of that instinct into real meaningful data. We're quite confident with that data because there's a broad group of us. There was representation from across multiple departments. So we were very confident that we had come to a really well-informed opinion that was factually backed. And so, but what would management do in reply? So we gave them this data, we walked them through it, and then they listened. So this is obviously management listening, if you Google it. So yeah, it was a really exciting point for me, really, was like them communicating back what they thought, the response that they came back with. And that was this. So victory number 1 was the no list. So I actually used this making this PowerPoint. But basically it was, instead of, I think prioritization was a really powerful thing, right? We all need to know what the priorities are. But what they did here was they defined a really clear list of, no, we're not going to do that. I think that was a really bold move, and it also set a really strong tone across the organisation. It's actually something we're using now on like a team level to start thinking about, to consciously deprioritise, which I don't know if any of you have the same problems as I do, but it's really, really impressive to see an engineer go, actually, no, we're not going to do that. Maybe we don't need 100 things in our backlog at once. So this is victory number 1 for sure. We're celebrating at this point. And then, yeah, victory number 2 is that now we've dropped the objective scope down to 33%. So that's, now we've set it in the feasible realm, which is I think it was really powerful to show, number 1, that they've listened, but also really exciting, because I think that the demoralization that comes from setting yourself up for failure is a massive risk for burnout and for disengaged teams. So this is now a really exciting year ahead where we feel like we can really accomplish all that we want to. Okay, and now we're on chapter 6. So I remind myself to breathe because I'm realizing I'm getting out of breath. So chapter 6 is the passing of the baton. So now management have listened to us. We're really excited about the level of engagement we've got so far. So this time round, we've already got just under 20% of giffgaff involved. So now we want to maintain that momentum. We want to keep people involved. And that's why we did the passing of the baton ceremony with a vote. So we had a meeting, management relayed this story to our whole company, and we then finalised that story with a vote, and we said, everyone, decide how we want to maintain this OKR process going forward. Do you want to do it monthly? Do you want to involve it in our weekly stand-up, our monthly stand-up? There are a few other options, but they did vote for the monthly stand-up, and that's what we're doing going forward. I think that was a really good continuation of the democratisation of the process. But as part of this time as well, we remember the process was a little bit weak, a little bit faulty on the infrastructure side. So this is where we made sure that we also democratize this flow of knowledge. So OKRs is like kind of a new framework for us. We didn't really know, everyone wasn't really taught and trained on it. So one of the massive things we've been doing in the past few weeks is making sure that everyone has access to that information. So traditionally what it would have been done is cascaded down. So every level of leadership makes their own OKRs and also in turn learns the process. So what we did this time round, this was the last minute slide, can you tell? Oh, okay, this is what it looks like now. So we democratized the flow of information so everyone has access to it. And we've done that in the last few weeks with a series of OKR workshops. We've had like 197 people attend. Very impressively, we've got a very enthusiastic staff base there. But we've also then started to step away. So we've done training, so the teaching phase, and then we've started to step away into the coaching phase now with OKR clinics, and we're going to kind of continue that kind of approach throughout the year, and I think that's another key change here. When we went into this, we thought it was a process change. We thought it was to train people on OKRs, but the reality is it's much more complex than that. The focus now is on the mindset shift, and that's not just going to be done overnight or over a quarter. Realistically, our time frame is on a yearly basis. So the final chapter. Cool, so this is where I get to my summary, and I pick out my favorite slides. So I think a key point for me, a really cool thing, was that we translated this feeling into fact. It wasn't the most accurate fact, but we did make data that was very valid, thanks to using the wisdom of crowds and removing quite a few biases from that process. And I think for me, this was the highlight of the whole thing, really. Obviously made possible because we had a leadership team that were willing to listen to this as well. Lesson moral number 2 was that we crowdsourced solutions and we shifted the information left. So by getting more people involved earlier on, we shifted the information flow left, and we democratized the flow of information across the company. And that meant that it wasn't owned by any individual, it wasn't dependent on any individual either, it was accessible to everyone, and every individual got to make the choice to use it, which definitely expanded our reach as well. And this is the final one, I think. So this is, crowdsourcing finds clarity is the title of this story. Conversation enabled this throughout. I would say that the next time, the little wink to the sequel, is will method meet this mindset? So will we be able to use this process to actualize the mindset that we're going after for goal setting at scale that's both pragmatic but also inspiring and engaging? I think that's it. Yeah, thank you.